both in terms of enrolling countries and delivering results on the ground. So we heard yesterday that, when we launched ASCENT last year in June, we had 4 countries which had signed on. But as of now, we have 11 countries. And I think we also saw some examples from the countries that we have, some of the connections which are already being delivered on the ground. So I would say that ASCENT Green is coming at a good time, and we are excited, to see it also, become part of the broader ASCENT program, and we are looking forward, basically also to, cooperate with the countries. So we need support from the countries to work together, to deliver ASCENT Green. Now, ASCENT Green is a transformative initiative which is designed to expand access to modern energy for 40 million people across Eastern and Southern Africa, especially remote and fragile contexts. This program builds on the success of existing ASCENT facilities and will be a powerful complement to our ongoing efforts. So, ASCENT, this will be done by 1, increasing their climate resilience, which is important given the fact that usually the poorest are the most, affected, through market reforms to jumpstart sustainable economic development and deliver jobs, including for women and the youth. So a key pillar of ASCENT Green is the pivotal role of the private sector in delivering decentralized renewable energy. This is very important. Again, even we heard again that, ASCENT primarily is 5 billion and an additional 10 billion is that will be reinforced to bring private sector on board to increase access to energy. And so to unlock this potential, ASCENT Green will be implemented by COMESA. And so it is one of those institutions through which ASCENT Green will be implementing in ASCENT Green. So now, for now, the World Bank and, together with other partners, TDB and ourselves, they are working on a proposal on dollars. And so, of course, this money is meant to be, catalytic, meant to bring in other finances. So the GCF financing will be blended with other public and private resources, de-risking investments, and attracting new will be brought on board through blended financing. COMESA stands ready to play a coordination role in policies, facilitating knowledge exchange, and building capacity across member states. We believe regional collaboration, strong country ownership, and private sector engagement are key to delivering inclusive and resilient development. As COMESA, we are excited about ASCENT Green and the potential role it will play in complementing other energy access initiatives to countries by making capital more accessible and affordable through lower costs of capital brought about by blended financing methods.
You gave us the comfort that I think things are on course, and I think you gave us the comfort that I think things are on course, and I think COMESA also will play its role to implement this. COMESA also will play its role to implement this ASCENT program, which is very innovative one. So,
Wished guests, ladies and
which is very innovative one. So,
wished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be here to represent, and allow me also to appreciate World Bank and by extension the leadership at ASCENT to invite us to participate in this particular forum. Indeed, we've met the ASCENT Green initiatives. So it is my distinct pleasure to join you for this. ASCENT Green session, electricity most, people living in remote areas, as well as community facing fragility and conflict. By strengthening resilience to climate change, we lay to serve previously underserved regions. Climate change, we lay to serve previously underserved regions and markets. ASCENT Green goals are ambitious, and achieving them requires population lies in the ability to multiply impact by strategically leveraging private sector resources, and expertise. Apply its impact by leveraging in the country, and the intention is to scale it up to 100% by the year 2030. Despite these achievements, significant challenges persist, necessitating urgent strategic and deforestation, health risk, and environmental degradation. The highest cost of energy, compounded by reliance on imported fossil fuels, impedes energy scrutiny, economic stability, and on how do we attract private sector investment within this particular space. In leveraging benefits of increased regional integration, to enhance regional integration by investing in interconnections and promoting power trade through the following activities. And as we speak, we currently have scaling up imported and exported power to 1,000 megawatts by 2030. And lastly, completing the pending transmission infrastructure that is between the 400 kV between Kenya and Uganda. It appreciates and provides mechanisms for providing fiscal and unfiscal incentives to attract private sector financing. These initiatives aims to encourage private sector procurement of power at cost-effective the energy sector, as these have proven successful in other sectors. Lastly, we are also trying to, government has engaged on foreign capital, mitigate foreign currency risk, lower on foreign capital, mitigate foreign currency risk, lower investment cost, and strengthen capital and financial markets. Therefore, for Kenya, ASCENT Green Program is not just a regional initiative. It's rooted in country's ownership and tailored to local needs. It offers several differentiators. One, it deploys needs. It offers several differentiators. One, it deploys blended capital instruments, including equity, results-based financing, local currency tools, and mitigation measures to stimulate private investments in distributed renewable energy, and cooking technologies. Two, it links energy access to broad Africa. Together through ASCENT Green, we can unlock new opportunities for millions, drive climate action, and foster inclusive growth. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Juncture, now we are moving to the program overview. And here, let me invite Dr. Yabi Zhang. She's Senior Energy Specialist at the World Bank.
And ASCENT, and then give you an overview of ASCENT Green, and then dive into the key components of ASCENT Green, and then walk through you about the current country engagement, and then the region, Africa East and South. We got 150 million targets, and ASCENT is the major vehicle to deliver this target. Solutions will contribute about 50% of that target. And the DRE is basically need to be delivered objectives of Mission 300. It's really about providing sustainable, reliable, affordable, clean energy for economic development. You know there are 3 pillars. So there's a pillar 1, regional and the national platforms. The pillar 2, expansion of national grid, is mostly delivered by country projects, working with utilities. And then the pillar 3, it's about scaling DRE, distributed renewable energy, clean cooking, productive use of energy. So broadly, we call it DRE solutions. So, ASCENT Green is focused on pillar 3 and aim to expand access to DRE solutions, clean cooking, and PUE in the region. So why? We need to that currently lack energy access, particularly those that are in remote areas, in the fragile context, and then help them to become more climate resilient and also deliver the climate mitigation benefits. So what is ASCENT Green? It is to support the private sector, the DRE solutions. I'm talking about the solar home systems, renewable energy mini-grids, clean cooking, PUE, all those DRE solutions we call, help to avoid 33 million tons of CO2 emissions over the lifetime. How we do that? Okay, basically we work with financing to mobilize a total of more than 2 billion investments to support the DRE sector. And the DRE effective solutions based on electrification planning, least cost electrification planning, and then that setting the DRE sector on a more commercial pathway. How exactly we're doing that? So we will use the regional approach that to support economy of scales, really try to support economy of scales, really try to attract more commercial investment in the sector, take more commercial investment in the sector, taking an ecosystem approach with a full menu of financial instruments, both grid electrification and DRE solutions. And ASCENT Green will focus on regional projects, and DRE will focus on regional projects and DRE solutions. The national and equity financing for the DRE clean cooking and equity financing for the DRE clean cooking and the PUE companies. And we have, of course, a COMESA companies. And we have, of course, a COMESA platform and facility. ASCENT Green facility. ASCENT Green basically will support the three regional facilities. So why we focus levels? So why we focus levels? So without any concessional financing public support, we see that the costs currently are not affordable to many users. Finance is difficult for SMEs, and also that's difficult for SMEs, and also that's for the DRE sector. And it's hard to raise equity. Equity is high, as GCF, concessional financing that can play a catalytic and de-risking role, to bring down the cost of financing, blend with concessional loans, to invest in Zafiri, which is patient capital vehicle that is specialized in investing in that, including the carbon risk mitigation facility that really help to facilitate transaction of carbon credits. Proven to be successful, and then to leverage that access to a bigger level, which include debt financing, results-based financing, technical certified as ATD, Africa Trade and Investment Development Insurance, as our prospect implementing agency, subject to barriers that are facing by the DRE sector. So overall, the program is 250 million GCF funding request. And here is the Meta platform. Of course, will also interact with the government to provide technical assistance and capacity building. And in the end, what we're looking at is beneficiaries. The end user, you may wonder, how do I ensure that the financing go to my country? I will be the one who will benefit most successful and provide affordable solutions to the end users. Successful and provide affordable solutions to the end users. So what we can do to help the countries to ensure they, what we can do to help the countries to ensure they benefit. One is the small countries. We know that for the countries, it's hard to attract the DRE companies. And then there's a hard to attract the DRE companies. And then there's a delivering DRE. So we have a few criteria. We map, okay, how many people do not have electricity act, the PUE strategy. So again, that the energy access is more than just a connection. We want to see the connection. So we have developed all the financial instruments that will directly support the DRE companies who can deliver the POE solutions, right? From the equity side to de-risking, to debt, to RB, to provide support to activate the demand for the POE solutions. RBF will support on the affordability side of the consumers, and then we will also
is going to support the private sector. Companies who are operating in it. So for the second question, what measures is in the ministry
to create a new countries we are facing? In terms of the opportunities, like I mentioned, there's integration with health initiatives. There's opportunity to ensure that there's gender-responsive climate solutions.
Between the long-term goals that climate change requires, we cannot talk about short climate change requires. We cannot talk about short-term. With the system, with the sustainability from the point of view, and whatever will happen, the proof of the success may happen after ASCENT Green has closed. Success may happen after ASCENT Green has closed. So again, we go back to the contribution of at the end of the day, the countries, the government will be the one that will be carried on. Last but not least, you mentioned this idea of users, educations, health, agriculture, and I think that that's agriculture, and I think that that's exactly as my colleague Yabe concluded. This is exactly what this program is about. It's not energy, water, and all the different uses. So I think you make that link, which I think is important because actually under ASCENT Green, I will leave you there. But we will continue, I'm sure, during the questions and answer is not charged. Bank and GCF from the point of view of the efforts that we know Uganda has been doing in terms of the climate national agenda. So this is a little bit the first question. The second question, as with Mrs. Munashe, is from the Uganda point of view. ASCENT Green focus a relevant and complemented with the efforts that as a government you're doing to push this agenda. Thank you.
Roy Akulo from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, a unit which was also set up in the ministry called the Climate Finance Unit by the government of France. In this case is also the national designated authority for all financial mechanisms, including the GCF, but is also the operational focal point for the GEF, which is the Global Environment Facility, and bring in climate finance to the government of Uganda. First, the government of Uganda intends to shoot its economy from $50 billion to $500 billion as one of the key sources of financing, and this should bring in a target of about $50 billion by 2050. This is so that we can deliver the economy enablers such as access to clean energy for productivity. And one of these key strategy is called the National Climate Financing Strategy, 2025 to 2050. So this strategy is meant to climate financing. And one of the ways that is stipulated in that document is through market-based instruments, among others. And ASCENT Green intends to deploy, among others. And ASCENT Green intends to deploy by the National Green Taxonomy and would further guide the private sector on how to access government incentives, such as tax holidays for startups that are fiscal space, fiscal space as government. And we think this is a good approach. And secondly, the opportunity within is that this project intends the carbon markets engagement. We've seen in this ASCENT Green proposal, they intend to use carbon markets mechanisms. If we haven't, then you're behind schedule because the Article 6 comes into operation since last year. So we should be able to have some guides, taxation, levies, share of proceeds, and basically managing the financing accruing from the carbon markets. And since this project is trying to look at carbon markets as one of the guarantees, in full control of how we mobilize the resources and how we distribute it across all sectors that are enshrined in our nationally determined contribution to undertake proper reforms needed for public investment management system. So we hope everybody could look into that direction.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Akulo. I think, what can I say? It has been the best description exactly of how you get of this regional approach that you have very well explained from a finance point of view. I would say is the climate financing that we already have started to discuss. This is an opportunity to have access to that type of financing. Second, I would like to underscore what you said about the financing instruments offered under ASCENT Green will help, and where your enabling environment will help. So market-based is not what in achieving the objectives, both climate-wise and energy-wise. Last but not least, you brought up, and Mrs. Munashe as well, the famous question, green platforms, developing the regulatory and legal environment. That also refers to quality standards, because ultimately that is, let's go to the representative in this panel of the private sector, Mr. DA. What are the main obstacles that you face when you plan to expand the markets from the countries that you already established to others in the region? In that context, two specific questions. Experience, what operational or regulatory barrier remain for the private sector to expand?
As a distributor across Zambia and the DRC, we have 60 bricks and mortar sales points, which operate across 8 Zambian provinces and 2 in the DRC. Key point to mention, a lot of the people we're looking to target here this week are those that aren't your conventional type of customers in other markets. And to date, we have empowered. I think one of the major ones that we've seen is a lot of the government agencies work in silos. So right now, we're all talking about tax incentives, tax benefits, but examples of how that plays out as of right now. So we have a container at the border between Zambia and DRC. It's been there for 65 days. Just RDG that are looking to expand, we'll be looking at those kind of examples. So RDG right now, we're looking at a third market, so if any country here is looking. So you as a company, you need to hedge for that, whilst trying to balance providing products that are impactful. So that RBF distributed, see what works, what doesn't work. And I'm really pleased to say that today, solar water pumps are a viable product here. I think I mentioned it already, government departments work in silos. We need to find a mechanism where they can all work through one channel. As distributors, we are the exemptions they may need can all be done through one department. That would, I think, greatly accelerate expansion of companies elsewhere. And then I think the final one, down a road that when you drive down it in the dry season, by the time you've got to the end of it, your kidneys are somewhere up here and your pelvis is no longer operational. The road is really quite bumpy. So that is what we expect to reach the 300 million people that we want to reach.
Thank you very much, Mr. DA. You have really put us a strong, long, heavy agenda of wealth. Very interestingly, it's not just a matter of amount of financing, is the right mix. I've also highlighted, and I will not repeat it, that will bring us to a certain point. But again, there is to strengthen the whole value chain. We are focusing on the financing and infrastructure to carry it, or harmonization that we preconize in the cities. And I think ASCENT Green is aiming to do just that, since the targets look at those kind of customers and adapt. And thank you. So last but not least, I would like to ask Mr. Maina, representing GIA, some of the users increase the benefit of energy. We don't need to increase the benefit of energy. We don't need to repeat that. But then why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult to have those productive uses of energy, or more of those productive uses of energy, are most effective in allowing to scale up these PUE, the productive uses of energy, and in the most difficult energy, and in the most difficult.
And ideally, we are selling some of these very expensive appliances and equipment. We are selling some of these very expensive appliances and equipment to the poorest consumer class, which are mostly small. Ideally, also to give an example of a product. Also to give an example of a productive use financing facility subsidy program that we have done in partnership with CLAS. Only 1 in 3 appliances are sold to women. So in the spirit of leaving no one behind, then you have to have very dedicated and targeted. The funder or the funder provider has targets in terms of impact and also timelines to deploy this funding. So it's always a balance of, do I just support more people, or do you focus on the larger appliances that have more impact and sometimes can be able to be used in a collective space? So those are some of the learnings that we are seeing, and trying any kind of enterprise development support or venture building support, we find that is lacking a lot in the space. So what we have done in most of our programs is trying to match this resource-based financing, because you need to self-need cost is actually getting higher, and the landing cost becomes quite untenable for the target market. So they get an upfront subsidy. They're also able to get enterprise development grants, 2 years old, grants, 2 years old. Some are 2 years long, some are 3 years long, but some are 2 years long, some are 3 years long. But what we have learned is that for companies to be able to absorb this kind of financing, they need longer runways. So you cannot need longer runways. So you cannot launch a year. We're very much trying to launch a year. We're very much trying to collate these learnings, ensure that there is collaboration at the ministry level, at the donor level, How do you share these learnings in terms of the context-specific definition for success?
Thank you very much, Mr. Maina. Thank you very much, Mr. Maina. You have walked us through your experience of doing PUE, and this notion that when you have a regional initiative, it can build on economies of scale and benefit. It can build on economies of scale and reflect the achievement, but to monitor and correct, as we say, correct the fine-tuning, so to achieve. The gentleman on the first row, please, if you can identify yourself when asking the question. Thank you.
But fridges, and it just so happens that that's what's on the top of my mind right now. But you're the one who's in the field. If you could share.
It was mentioned the fact that not all the appliances are equal. Some are much more expensive than others. So what?
First question, yes, about the financial sustainability of the business. So I think a lot of the companies in the industry started off with, I think that's actually quite dangerous. And the reason why is that when you start any business, from day one, you must be business-minded. You must make sure that your costs are balancing, and completely based on commercial lending. So we had no choice. We had to balance the books. So we didn't sell products with gross margins because we just couldn't do them. And that's what I mentioned about the RBF. The RBF is then important to give companies, good companies financially, the opportunity to test out new products. With commercial lending, you can't reach those customers. You've got to go for the ones that are peri-urban or just rural. So that's how you turn credit invisible and such. But that is to say that this business or this industry is possible in terms of being a business in the true sense of the word and being financially sustainable. It is possible, but you just
have already partly answered, because it was exactly how to get. What do you do with the bigger appliances, the more expensive ones? What demand incentives on the demand?
Tell me if I'm wrong here, but the way of going.
Yes, Dana?
I think maybe there was also the element of question: how do you grow demand? How do you help your clients, especially for productive appliances?
Yeah. And again, I think the mention of how expensive productive use appliances are, they are very expensive. And the first thing that we do when someone wants a solar water pump, and we're using non-conventional items to determine someone's creditworthiness. So what is the material of your roof? Because you don't have a pay slip, how do you determine what you can afford? So we ask them, what's the material of your roof? How large was your harvest last year? So the demand is massive. Can't give everyone who wants a solar water pump a solar water pump. That's the honest truth. But there are ways now, and companies are getting so much better at determining who should be getting a pump, and just what's expected versus what's paid. So these productive use energy appliances are performing exceptionally well, but it's because we're really intentional about determining who can afford it and who cannot.
Thank you very much. So let me ask you myself, I would be very interested if I could get from the panelists all of you from your different perspectives, an expansion of DRE, energy access, and increase the resilience of the population to climate change, being able to succeed. So if I just a quick answer, I give you a few seconds to...
In action, prepare projects, and for the donors, don't take much time to to make it ready.
Stop there. Thanks.
Thank you. If you want to know how to influence that, come back tomorrow for the session. It's for you, Mrs. Anash.
Thank you. I think
and we're trying as much as possible to leverage on private financing. Therefore, it's only imperative that governments support the private sector to show government has a key role in both fronts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to close?
So despite all the negative challenges, opportunity, we're looking to resolve challenges, but there's a huge opportunity on the other side of that. Is the world a better place because what you did in it? Is the area that you live better now than when you found it? And I think this here is an opportunity.
Thank you. There is a need for a mic over there, please.
GIAP. On a bien vu que les besoins sont identifiés pour soutenir le RBF, mais par exemple en République démocratique en RDC. Merci.
Très bien. So this is a question to GIAP from the DRC perspective to the governments. Essentially, it will be good to have a better understanding by the actors of exactly what are the conditions, the requirements, the pre-requirements that are certainly written clearly in conversation with you and your colleagues so that DRC could also make the best use of these resources. Si j'ai bien traduit votre inquiétude.
Come up, briefcase companies that will come up and be like, yes, I also want a piece of the pie, but how do you make sure that you're protecting the market, you're protecting the consumers at the end of the day?
If you could identify yourself, please.
Bonjour, moi c'est Sophie Ndakit de la RDC. Je voulais poser une question sur les subsides, sur des usages productifs. Pourquoi je le dis? Parce que si on se limite tout simplement à donner des subsides aux ménages ou les calculer par kilowattheure, ça veut dire que, avec les réalités que nous avons en RDC,
n'est-ce pas? Okay, Yabe, the question from the lady of DRC is that she is saying what would be a in terms of how to better design the RBF, ensures longer term sustainability. From the World Bank side, sustainability. From the World Bank side, we do have quite a lot of experience in different. Countries.
To bring other type of countries. To bring other type of financing and making it more affordable. So for equity, for quasi-equity parts of financing that initially goes as a subsidy with more commercial financing that will become more affordable in the future.
My colleague Yabe, and to all the panelists for this very interesting discussion and the audience for your questions. I encourage you to come your questions. I encourage you to come to your lunch and thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Caramencia, for photo. Okay, let us have unities to reduce the cost of doing. Let us have unities to reduce the cost of doing business through economies of scale and scope. And as you can see, now Commissioner managed to bring all those people scope. And as you can see, now Commissioner managed to bring all those people here. So that also another proposal. So lunch is served there. Lunch is served there. That where yesterday we took our lunch. Lunch is served there, so we can go for lunch, enjoy your patience, and also for being very good audience. I thank you very much. Good audience. I thank you very much. The session is closed.